Welcome to SchezzWho, your top spot for politics. My role as a provider in political content requires your role as a consumer of it. So like this video, comment on this video, share the video around, subscribe to this channel, make SchezzWho grow. Now I want to shout out the things that help this channel grow. Speaking with the Dissent Agenda, another great podcast in the Southeastern Virginia area, and that is run by Melissa Lucasen and Cody Connor, whose StreamYard account they use for that. I also piggyback off of in order to run SchezzWho, so definitely give the Dissent Agenda a look. Also, Farley Perkins at the Farley Perkins Agency. He can help you with insurance needs in Hampton Roads as long as you hit up 757-271-6655. If you're looking for some good Southern-based food, then Ellen's Homestall and Barbecue Express is where to go for that, with a location here in Portsmouth, Virginia, as well as across from Regent University in Virginia Beach. And if you're looking for sweets after that meal, then head on over to ELG Sweet Boutique in High Street in Portsmouth. Also, my good friend Mr. Seiko Varner does Positive Vibes Incorporated, helps you with credit fixes and tax resolutions and lending private money. He also helps you with debt consolidation, so hit up 757-932-0177. If you need a DJ, he's great at that. And additionally, if you need to find a great Black-owned business in Hampton Roads, he created the Hampton Roads Green Book specifically to help you find that, so look that application up. The Black Swan Mindset, The Chronicles, helps you with expanding your mindset. So go on to Spotify to subscribe and follow the Black Swan podcast run by the lovely, talented Andrea Dixon Chesviner, my wife. Make sure that you follow the Black Swan podcast. So this is undoubtedly one of the hottest and most controversial topics that I've personally had to do on a show. But nonetheless, I feel it's important to go forth with this. Reality shouldn't really be left to wither away without a fight. Charlie Kirk was assassinated last week. Now, I heard about it first via someone close to me who texted me he was shot at a speaking event in Utah, one of his TikTok college things. Then this person would add the new democratic form of debating. I deliberately ignored that comment. I went with my wife to Lowe's and we began seeing videos of the shooting, both far away and close up. And the close-up one, you knew when you saw it. It was frighteningly violent watching what happened to his neck from just one shot. It just left my wife and I mentally shook. Then we learned he passed. In that moment, I got to absorb that I just experienced one of those 1960s style assassinations. The first lesson I took from it, much like any time I see gun violence, I typed, "It's guns," on a Facebook status. That's my political voice in the moment. I'm routinely anti-gun. I see a story like one killed overnight in a Norfolk shooting, or say 2 children killed in a Minnesota school shooting. And regardless of the type of story, beneath it, I'll type the phrase, "Guns take lives." Why do I do that? Why do I type comments like "guns take lives" so frequently? Because commentators like Charlie Kirk frequently say "guns take lives." Example of it right there. All of this is ironic because Charlie Kirk is on record saying the following. In 2023, Kirk said at a Turning Point USA faith event, "We must also be real. We must be honest with the population. Having an armed citizenry comes with a price, and this is part of liberty. I think it's worth to have a cost of, unfortunately, some gun deaths every single year so that we can have the Second Amendment to protect our other God-given rights." Kirk's comments there came a little over 1 week after 3 children and 3 adults were gunned down at Christian Covenant School in Nashville, Tennessee. It's important to know as we reflect on the gun death of Charlie Kirk which resulted in flags being ordered at half-staff here in Virginia by Glenn Youngkin and nationwide by Donald Trump. A gun death which occurred on the same day as a mass shooting in a Colorado school. The same day as a mass shooting in Oakland. That is definitely important to know people like me, people on the left, something I'm honestly telling you that I am, do not support what happened to Charlie Kirk. I don't support what happened to Charlie, though. According to Iron Snowflake, Charlie supported what happened to Charlie. What do they mean like that? Well, Charlie Kirk just said in his own words that to him, this is just the cost of doing business to preserve gun rights. After I observed the significance of his shooting death, I made way to see the resulting commentary about it. My first taste was that the person close to me who texted this was the new Democrat way of debate. Then entering into the chat was the onslaught of Republican reactions to this. Granted, it's a little hard to see all of that on the screen, but I made it a point to jot down what it said for all of them. So here they are. We have libs on TikTok saying, "This is war." Trump issued an AI video statement blaming the radical left. Nancy Mace yelled into cameras that Democrats own this. Elon Musk said the left is the party of murder. Sean Davis said the Democrat Party is a domestic terrorist organization who fanatics will not hesitate to murder their political opponents. This was not a one-off event. Chris Rufo said the last time the radical left orchestrated a wave of violence and terror, J. Edgar Hoover shut it down within a few years. It is time within the confines of the law to infiltrate, disrupt, arrest, and incarcerate all of those responsible for the chaos. Jerry Memes said Charlie Kirk has been shot. Enough is enough. Democrats need to be labeled a terrorist organization. Laura Loomer said it's time for Trump administration to shut down, defund, and prosecute every single leftist organization. We must shut these lunatic leftists down once and for all. The left is a national security threat. Elon again added, if they won't leave us in peace, then our choice is fight or die. Fox host Jesse Waters said they're at war with us. Whether we want to accept it or not, they're at war with us. And what are we going to do about that? Patrick Casey said it's time to bring the hammer down on the left. Matt Forney said Charlie Kirk being assassinated is the American Reichstag fire. It is time for a complete crackdown on the left. Every Democratic politician must be arrested and the party banned under RICO. Every libtard commentator must be shut down. Stochastic terrorism, they caused this. Estheticia said, there's no going back after this. There's no more words to be said. The only way this ends is complete annihilation of the Democrat Party. Gunther Eagleman said, they've declared war. Sean Davis added again, when Democrats lose elections, they couldn't steal. They murder the people they were unable to defeat. Orenfield Rando said, I don't want the National Guard sent to Democrat cities anymore. I want the Air Force sent. Brian Eastwood said, Charlie Kirk getting shot is the shot heard around the country. I'm ready for civil war. You want to fight? And you're going to get it. Joey Manarino said, the Democrat Party must be classified as a domestic terror organization and their members and leaders treated accordingly. Enough is enough. So to this point, you have the clear impression that on the afternoon of Charlie Kirk getting shot and killed, that Republicans were so pissed at Democrats, they wanted to round up the Democrat Party and leftists like me and then kill all who resist. We know this because they overtly said it. I repeat it back to you what they said. Now I want you to properly align your brain's ability to sense hypocrisy. Hypocrisy, of course, being the practice of claiming to have moral standards that one's own behavior does not conform to. Here's a good example of hypocrisy. Believing the United States is a Christian nation blessed by God, while supporting the genocide the United States is funding and arming back in the geographic land of Christ. That's going on right now. So make sure your hypocrisy meter up here is up to standard, because we're going to go through an absolute avalanche of Republican hypocrisy. Themes from the message so far. Democrats are terrorists. Democrats declared war. Democrats kill opponents they couldn't beat. Republicans must now act to aggressively go after them. And I'm first struck by the must now part. For were not leaks from Donald Trump tweeting about Chicago will experience the Department of War. Do you remember this? What does it look like to you? How incendiary that was. We're not weeks from Trump spokesperson Caroline Leavitt saying they wanted to do this to all Democrat-led cities. And I got that receipt as well. No one would be confused about what is happening here if they saw it in another country. So Caroline Leavitt says, there are the bad guys that we are picking up in Washington, D.C. every day. The president would love to do this in every Democrat-run city across the country. And this is the official spokesperson of the White House, stating that the president hopes to deploy the United States military to occupy every city controlled by the political party that opposes them. And this was before Charlie Kirk was assassinated. Speaking of Charlie Kirk, don't forget, in August, Charlie Kirk called for the full military occupation of American cities after D.C. We can't forget the amount of people arrested on campuses for using speech to criticize Israel. Remember that for the Republicans who decry the shifting of free speech rights all the time? Who not only cheer for the firings of people who simply are quoting Charlie Kirk's own words these days, but actively research those people and report the activity to Republican officials to further instigate. We have APSU firing a professional over insensitive media post following the shooting of Charlie Kirk. Notice that Republican Senator Marsha Blackburn got him fired over it, which is funny because it was quoting Charlie Kirk saying those words after the Christian Covenant School shooting in 2023. We also have Dan Moynihan here saying, we are at the point in the honoring Charlie Kirk's memory cycle when faculty are being fired for posting without comment Charlie Kirk's words at the behest of politicians sworn to uphold the First Amendment and in public institutions covered by First Amendment protections. I can't but bring up again the fact Republicans were already at war with Democrats prior to Charlie Kirk's assassination. Look at this. This is from early in the morning on September 10th. From the previous afternoon, September 9th, where Tom Homan to Boston Mayor Michelle Wu, we're coming. We're going to be there tomorrow. We're going to be there the next day. We're going to be there the next month. We're going to be there the next year. You're not stopping us from what we're doing. And this is a White House official speaking to the mayor of a major American city, to which case what asking what this country has become, again, before Charlie Kirk was assassinated. Observe the person who shot and killed Democrat lawmaker Melissa Hortman and her husband, Mark. He was a Trump supporter. The man charged with the attempted assassination of Pennsylvania Democrat Governor Josh Shapiro was a Trump supporter. In 2023, Oklahoma governor called out 4 McCurtain County officials, Trump supporters, to resign after they participated in a secretly recorded conversation that included racist remarks about lynching Black people and talking about killing journalists. the man convicted of orchestrating a series of shootings at the homes of 4 Democrat lawmakers in New Mexico in 2022. Trump supporter. The man who attempted to kidnap Nancy Pelosi and assaulted her husband Paul in 2022. Trump supporter. Remember that one? Because Charlie Kirk said a patriot should go bail out that guy. The man who wanted to hang Mike Pence on January 6, 2021. Amongst a thousands-deep group of people who committed an insurrection against the United States were Trump supporters. Remember, Charlie Kirk actively funded attendance to January 6th, bussed people over there, and after January 6th, Charlie Kirk invoked the Fifth Amendment in front of a congressional hearing investigating January 6th. The man who killed the son of Obama-appointed Judge Esther Salas in 2020. Trump supporter. The men who were convicted of trying to kidnap Democrat Governor of Michigan, Gretchen Whitmer. Trump supporters. The men who sent pipe bombs to the homes of Obama, Biden, and Hillary in 2018. Trump supporter. The man who drove a car through a Charlottesville crowd of protesters, killing Heather Heyer in 2017. Trump supporter. The Unite the Right rally itself, with groups of people yelling, "Jews will not replace us." Trump supporters. There isn't a comparable list on the left of left on right violence. In fact, according to the ADL Center on Extremism, 2024 was the third consecutive year that every act of political homicide were from the hands of right-wingers. Right-wingers can cry havoc all they want, but they cannot act like they haven't already let slip the dogs of war. They're misleading you. And I don't even know if they know that they are lying. Much like Trump, I think the entire party is in their own reality. And part and parcel to that reality is a belief they're not doing anything wrong. I have a very relevant Donald Trump quote on that. A reporter just yesterday asked the president about the president of Venezuela calling Trump's boat attack illegal. Trump just blurted out, "What's illegal is the fact that 300 million people died last year from drugs." It's just something he bullshitted out of thin air. Only 62 million people died worldwide last year. He and those that support him so religiously, they just buy it because their reality is all that exists to them. And in this reality, Democrats are literally trying to kill them. J.D. Vance, who, by the way, is the only American politician who has called Donald Trump America's Hitler. He did that in 2016. J.D. Vance just hosted Charlie Kirk's podcast. On it, J.D. Vance uses these words. While our side of the aisle certainly has its crazies, it is a statistical fact that most of the lunatics in American politics today are proud members of the far left. That claim, like Trump's blurtations, just made up on the spot, only now with a higher reading level of vernacular. Statistically, CSIS shows right-wing extremists are behind 57% of terrorist incidents from 1994 to 2020, with 335 deaths, while the left wing was at 25% and 22 deaths. DHS 2025 report highlights threats from various DVEs, but it doesn't indicate far left dominance. A UMD study finds left-wing acts are less violent than right-wing in the US. Sources show the mirror image of JD's comment to be true. As this happens, those on the right think Democrats and the left are obsessed with death. And I've got receipts for that. Meghan McCain. She says, I think the fundamental difference between the right and the left in this country is that the left glorifies death, particularly of adversaries, and the right does not. And it's not something I think I really have fully faced until Charlie's assassination, and it's petrifying. And not long after that, After we learn that Tyler Robinson is the person that shot Charlie Kirk, she swings to death penalty. So she also obsessed with death. Laura Loomer recently celebrated the deaths of thousands of migrants in the Mediterranean Sea and outright advocated for 2,000 more. Or the folks I've debated with over Israel and Gaza, Christians, mind you, who looked the other way when Israel bombed churches in Gaza, hundreds of thousands of civilians that were left dead in Gaza, people who call Palestinians roaches, or the Republicans who celebrated huge government cuts to health care, weather services, and FEMA as if deaths that will result from that are just yawnable. Or Charlie Kirk again, who called George Floyd a scumbag who had it coming, called Martin Luther King a horrible person, or said it's okay to have gun deaths as long as you can keep guns in the Second Amendment. So yeah, we're taking the comment that the left is obsessed with death, especially their opponents, real seriously. Not. This brings me to one of the more significant Republican families in Virginia, the Freitases, Tina and Nick. They are public figures, so I shall critique them. Both have run for office in Virginia. Nick, of course, being a delegate for a decade, starting in 2015 and wrapping up this January. Fun fact, I know them personally, and they've been absolutely nothing but nice to me. Nick has been a guest on my old show, The Beach Brothers. I even donated $40 to Nick Freitas in a previous campaign of his, and right now I don't remember if that was one of his Senate race or a delegate race, but it was back when I was more libertarian. Both the Freitases have graduated to a strong online presence, especially their show, specifically Nick as a host, making the argument on the Nick Freitas YouTube channel, which I admit being hella jealous of, with over 1.37 million subscribers to that YouTube channel. Subscribe to SchezzWho, by the way. With influence like that which Nick has, he can reach millions and make possibly as much money in a month off of YouTube as his delegate salary is for the year. Now, remember, the delegate salary is not that much. It's roughly $17,000. You can make that in a month with YouTube when you have that much following. Tina Freitas came out swinging first, I'll note. The left is a death cult, which thrives on rage, lies, confusion, hatred, and human sacrifice. We are not the same. And of course, the commentaries below it, as I have to zoom in because I'm nearsighted, say 100%. Facebook does not offer a singular emoji to express how I feel right now. I bet they all sort of felt like Tina did in that moment. Yes, Ms. Freitas, I acknowledge your liberal tears cup that you're drinking from. I believe you can't possibly be biased here. Then came the big blow from Delegate Nick Freitas. And his response rattled Democratic Speaker of the House in Virginia, Don Scott, and many others with a now over 1.8 million viewed YouTube video. And to the best of my knowledge, I will quote him exactly, so you have just a taste for how bloodthirsty Republicans are. And got a screenshot here of him in the midst of the video in his own Facebook post of what he said. Here's what he said. I am told that as a state representative, this is the moment where I'm supposed to express my heartfelt condolences and then stand in solidarity with those on the other side of the aisle as we condemn political violence and stand unified as one people. But we aren't one people, are we? The truth is we haven't been for some time now, and there is really no point in pretending anymore if there ever was. We are two very different peoples. We may occupy the same piece of geography, but that is where the similarities seem to abruptly end. I convinced myself for a long time that whenever the left called me a racist, a bigot, a sexist, a fascist, a threat to democracy, or even the most innocent of disagreements, that it was simply a hyperbolic rhetoric done for effect. And now the effect is a widow and 2 orphan children because the left couldn't bear the thought of a peaceful man debating them and winning. I don't think they realize it yet, but murdering Charlie is going to be remembered as the day where we finally woke up to what the fight really is. It's not a civil dispute among fellow countrymen. It's a war between diametrically opposed worldviews which cannot peacefully coexist with one another. One side will win and one side will lose. Charlie tried to win that fight through argumentation, through discussion, through peaceful resolution of differences. And the other side murdered him. Not because he was extreme or excited violence or any other hyperbolic slur they hurled at him. They murdered him because he was effective, because he was unafraid, because he inspired others and made them feel like they had a voice, that they were not alone. And he did it at the very institutions which have fomented so much hatred toward conservatives. I don't want to stand in solidarity with the other side of the aisle. I want to defeat you. I want to defeat the godless ideology that kills babies in the womb, sterilizes confused children, turns our cities into cesspools of degeneracy and lawlessness, and that murdered Charlie Kirk. Social media is aflame right now with leftist celebration of Charlie's death. I wonder if any among them understand what has just happened, if there is a Yamamoto somewhere in their midst warning that all they have done is awoken a sleeping giant. I doubt it. I think they gave up such introspection and self-awareness long ago. And I don't know exactly what will happen next. I just know that it won't be the same as it happened in the past. There will be thoughts and prayers. Charlie would have wanted prayers, not for himself, but for those left behind and for the country that he loved. And then there will be a reckoning. My Christian faith requires me to love my enemies and pray for those who curse me. It does not require me to stand idly by in the midst of savagery and barbarism, quite the opposite. So every time I feel tired, every time I feel discouraged or overwhelmed, I am going to watch the video of a good man being murdered in Utah. I will force myself to watch it, and then I will return to the work of destroying the evil ideology responsible for that and so much more. Rest with God, Charlie. Your fight is over. Ours is just beginning. So I digested Delegate Nick Freitas' points. Then I found my own words, something I don't mind sharing here, as I noted that on Facebook, that Nick Freitas' page has blocked my personal profile recently, so thankfully I have my own forum to make my responses. We're not and never were one people. On that, I'd say Freitas is correct. I just don't want him to make you believe that we very recently were split. We've always been split, and Republicans have long been rabble-rousing about it. Hell, they still laud the Confederacy. Nick said, the left's rhetoric had the effect of killing Charlie Kirk. Not because he said it, but because he won when he did it, to which A, isn't accurate, and B, also isn't accurate. Nick said the right woke up to what the left in the fight really is because of Charlie Kirk's death. This is not accurate because they were already at war with the left, and the left didn't kill Charlie. Either one side will win or one will lose, but these left and right sides are fundamentally at war, and I'd say he's accurate, but Charlie Kirk dying wasn't Pearl Harbor. And the right has been fighting the rest of us for years. They just think they are angels. So theirs doesn't count to the tally. Charlie tried to do this the right way. That's not accurate, Delegate Freitas. Charlie Kirk was a prolific speech user. He isn't a free speech champion or an arguing master. He's the example of a burning cross. It doesn't make you a champion of free speech. It just makes you a racist asshole. Charlie held debates, so he's considered a free speech hero. Never mind that they were mechanistic. They were rigged. He'd tempt unwary college kids just to humiliate them with cheap rhetorical tricks and then put the footage online. He was a professional creator of content who was 31 and tempted 19-year-olds who were inexperienced at this. It wasn't debate unless you saw the time he took on the British at Cambridge in a debate group, and he got worked. For Charlie Kirk, his shtick was crowd work, like you might see with stand-up comedians, farmed for content. Nick said the other side murdered him. That's not accurate, and I'll get to that shortly. He was murdered by the other side because he was effective and did it at colleges with spurns conservatives. This is not accurate because you know for a fact no college has a position against the belief that taxes should be lower or subsidies should be less. They get antsy when you measure your political beliefs in problems with women and racial differences. And if you package that as something called conservative, that's on you. Freitas doesn't want to stand in solidarity. He wants to defeat people like me. And that's fair. I want his line of policy defeated too. He says he wants to defeat the godless ideology that kills babies in the womb, and I want to defeat the God-full ideology that tells women to take a back seat to their husbands. Something Charlie Kirk just said about Taylor Swift. Shackled their liberty behind an entirely different organism. Removes their bodily autonomy. A godful ideology that doesn't think supporting women who have kids with any support of the public is worth a damn. A godful ideology that cheers on the deaths of thousands of babies in Gaza. I want to defeat that. Delegate, if you don't mind my frankness, you can take and shove all of that up your godless. I want that conservatism defeated. Turn cities into cesspools of degeneracy. I want to defeat the conservative that abandons entire segments of the country to the whims of poor planning and incendiary policing, which impoverishes people, incarcerates others, destroys families, comes out the other side saying they can fix it as long as they slash education funding and cut taxes for wealthy people. And if all else fails, they'll just use the military to invade it. Leftists celebrated Charlie Kirk's death. That's not accurate. The online left respond by saying they're explicitly not celebrating. They're just not weeping. And you know why? Just like y'all didn't weep when Jimmy Carter died and didn't mind when Donald Trump publicly was pissed off the flags were at half-staff for Jimmy Carter. You don't like us. We know this, Delegate Freitas. It's returned in kind, hence why the left spends so much time simply repeating what Kirk has said in his life. Problem is getting them fired now. Meanwhile, you guys flooded money toward Turning Point and made Charlie Kirk rich for saying it. You play as if you're silent majority who have just woken up, but you're not a majority. You're certainly not silent with the incessant whining I hear from the right about everything from Angel Reese to the homeless being systematically killed, like Brian Kilmeade just said on Fox, to anything trans-related. I noticed that, Delegate Freitas, in your commentary about confused youth being sterilized. And anyone debating back at you, you think there's a Yamamoto here when you guys are nothing but petulant children who are upset people don't go to their birthday party. Why don't you play like you say you are? Silent. I find it's funny how there's so much about how Christian Charlie was, how he'd be prayerful. And if that's Christianity, I can damn well say it's far from Christ-like. I see your perceived reckoning, Delegate Freitas. I see how you think you're about to stand up to barbarism. Just realize we leftists are not afraid you'll start a war against us. You've already been at war with us, and we're still here. We're gaining more people. No matter how many cities you try to take over with the military or push us into concentration camps. I see you want to work to destroy the ideology that killed Charlie Kirk. And it's quite ironic because Delegate Nick Freitas, you think it's my ideology and people like me. When in reality, it came from the swirling maelstrom of the frantic factions inherent to the right, all whom No true Scotsman their way to bringing a gun to a campus and pulling a trigger. I won't lose money betting that you believe me here, Delegate Freitas. But not only was Tyler Robinson a young white male, cisgendered, by the way, he's from Utah. He was raised religious. In fact, his Mormon youth pastor is who he confided in about the crime. Tyler was raised in a family steeped in gun fandom. His parents taught him young how to shoot. That kill shot of Charlie Kirk was honed in the bellies of a gun-loving family. A gun-loving family that is entirely Republican. According to Tyler Robinson's grandmother, they don't even know a Democrat. Tyler sunk into a deep hole online, one so far into a chasm of right-wing depravity that even Charlie Kirk seemed impure. You might not know of the Groypers, but they know you. Their memes and subtle references were all over the bullets brought to the shooting of Charlie Kirk. Groypers are ultra-nationalist neo-Nazis, born out of the early 2010s meme cultures led by young white male Nick Freitas, who, in 2019, coined the Groyper Wars. They target the left, but also mainstream conservatives. And look at the response to Charlie's death, mainstream conservatives, taking Charlie Kirk to heart because they see him in themselves. Charlie Kirk is one of the main targets of the Groypers, for to them he was a fake conservative. He accepted debate with Jews and gay people. And Groypers routinely try to derail his debates to force him further right. Groypers use progressive symbols as a strategy to confuse people about their actual beliefs. An example being that Bella Ciao term, which was a song chosen as a theme song within the Groyper Wars and was in video games they played. Hey Fascist Catch with the various up-down symbols on the bullet casings is a meme referencing a code for a total annihilation in the shooting game Helldivers 2. Other phrases on the bullets, notices bulge and oh, whoa, that's, what's this? They're popular trollish memes directed at the furry community, a common target of the far right. Tyler Robinson is a young mind shaped inside the weird reality of the alt-right. And he stepped out violently last Wednesday. Your reactionary Republicans, you guys jumped the gun. Pun intended there. So severely that we can tell you were just itching to say it anyway, weren't you? You want to fight us so bad you're ready to start a war when you've already been fighting us, without realizing this is right on right and white on white violence. But you're not going to see Trump say he needs to send the military to Salt Lake City or Provo, Utah, will you? Then again, we already know the real intents there. And on the matter of Charlie Kirk himself, no. The left did not want him dead. The left wants him alive, want him well, living a family life, one that's well off even. We just wanted a nicer person. And I mean that literally. Charlie Kirk said Martin Luther King was awful and not a good person. So there you go about him criticizing people. We're going to criticize Charlie Kirk. And Martin Luther King, now that's a Christian man. And I bet today's conservatives would read off Martin Luther King's content of their character quote to stave off accusations of their own racism, but nonetheless deeply feel the words of Charlie Kirk as a guiding force in their own hearts. And the content of Charlie's character is what's lacking. Kirk was staunchly anti-Palestinian. He denied their existence. Kirk was staunchly anti-immigrant, recently saying we don't need visas for folks from India. We're full, copying the old fixed space trope. He said immigrants should fully assimilate and fully learn English, saying he could not find Christ-like compassion for immigrants who stay here long and don't take to English. By the way, nation states in the English language didn't exist when Christ was alive. Kirk was a longtime proponent of the Great Replacement theory, that immigration from the southern border was specific to replace white people here in the United States. Kirk is on record stating, Democrats hate this country and love it when they see the country become less white. That's a belief overtly of the opinion that the United States, by bedrock principle, is white and that it should remain so. Charlie Kirk was staunchly anti-trans and anti-gay. He called anti-trans identity a throbbing middle finger to God. He called doctors who did gender care Nazis, and he wanted them tried. He tried to portray the trans group as particularly violent, even though data says the opposite. He routinely used dehumanizing language toward them, including labels like groomers. In the very debate he was partaking in at the minute of his death, he was asked how many trans people have committed mass shootings in the United States. He reflexively said, too many. And when he was corrected that it was 5 out of the thousands of mass shootings in the past several years, he then deflected toward another identity group. Then he was shot. Kirk was a longtime opponent of gay marriage. When trying to counter an online YouTuber's comments about the Bible teaching people to love thy neighbor, Kirk responded with the Bible passage that suggests stoning people who are homosexual. Kirk has been on record welcoming gay people to the conservative movement, but on the condition that they're not open about it. Because to Charlie Kirk, the concept of homosexuality ties with an LGBTQ agenda, naturally ignoring if he, Charlie Kirk, has any nefarious agenda of his own. Charlie Kirk was anti-women's independence. His view on women called on them to abandon personal career goals, to abandon deeper education, and to commit to the subservience of a godly man. He called on women to raise more children than they could afford. His opinion was so strong that he encouraged husbands to do everything they can to make sure their wife didn't go into the workforce. Charlie Kirk also didn't have policies where he'd support that allow single-income families to actually exist in this nation. In speaking engagements, Kirk suggested to young women to not pursue college, and pursuit should be toward marriage and a husband. Charlie Kirk believed every single pregnancy by definition has no medical necessity for abortion, a position which, if made into law, would have killed Florida Republican Congresswoman Kat Cammack if her ectopic pregnancy wasn't aborted in 2024. And Charlie Kirk is on record saying if his daughter was raped at 10 and she conceived a child through it, she should be made to carry the child to term. Charlie Kirk literally viewed women as secondary to men, women as secondary to the concept of new children, who women, even as adults, should not have ambitions beyond baby factories and wives. Charlie Kirk had a career of belittling commentary toward Black people. He routinely said affirmative action led to unqualified Black people getting positions. He said if he saw a Black pilot, he hopes they're qualified. This signals a natural inclination to believe white pilots are qualified. Charlie Kirk, notably, dropped out of Harper College after one semester, notably after being denied enrollment to West Point. Conversely, Charlie Kirk is on record saying Ketanji Brown Jackson, who graduated magna cum laude from Harvard in 1993, and Joy Reid, who graduated from Harvard in 1991, and Michelle Obama, who graduated cum laude from Princeton in 1985, as well as a JD from Harvard in 1988. And Sheila Jackson Lee, who received her bachelor's in political science at Yale and a JD from Virginia in 1975, are all lacking in brain processing power to be taken seriously beyond that of an affirmative action hire. That they stole jobs from white men. He said that the Civil Rights Act of 1964 was an active mistake. And I know how reflexive conservatives get when they get called racist. But it isn't on us leftists that you guys are canonizing Charlie Kirk here. This is the shit we talk about when conservatives get labeled that. And it would have been great if conservatives like the Freitases said such comments over the years by Charlie Kirk were out of bounds, racially wrong, and hurtful. But they didn't. Because they see Charlie Kirk themselves. And sometimes silence speaks louder than a video that gets over 1.8 million YouTube views. where you say you think you're at war with the left. See, the Freitases were silent after Minnesota Democratic lawmaker Melissa Hartman and her husband were murdered in their own home by a Trump supporter. I went back and checked their Facebooks, the YouTube channel. I looked for a video about it. The Freitases didn't say anything about the assassination. The right didn't condemn it. Trump thought it would be a waste of time to even call Governor Walz. And Republican Senator Mike Lee joked about it, calling it a nightmare on Wall Street. No, we're not the same, Republicans. You're hypocritical, whiny assholes. But back to Charlie Kirk being a racist. Charlie Kirk is on record saying groups of black people go out prowling to target white people. He also claimed white people are disproportionately attacked by black people. In 2021, Charlie Kirk called George Floyd a scumbag unworthy of national attention. As mentioned earlier, Charlie Kirk called the 1964 Civil Rights Act a huge mistake that has become an anti-white weapon. Charlie Kirk tried to play a black man on Twitter and then give himself praise, but he forgot to switch accounts. Give it a second to come up on the screen here. Do you guys remember when Charlie Kirk tried to give an opinion as a black man on Twitter but forgot to change the account? This is back in March of 2020. As a black man, I think Charlie Kirk is great. And then Charlie Kirk responded to himself saying, "Ha, thank you. I bet all the liberals will speak over you and call you a racist. You're truly great." What a lot of white people are going to have to do, what they're going to have to do as they search their soul and come to grips, is coming to terms with the fact that deep down they mentally associate with Charlie Kirk over, say, George Floyd, over, say, a dead Palestinian child, or a 4-year-old with cancer being deported out of the United States because they see themselves more in the sexist white supremacist mindset of a Charlie Kirk than they do the others. They can say Floyd was on drugs. They can call all Palestinians roaches. They can say, hey, do it the legal way to a child at Alligator Alcatraz. But if a Groyper shoots Charlie Kirk, they're ready to mow all us Democrats down. That doesn't scare people enough. If you sat Charlie Kirk down with young black people and discussed better times for the black community, Kirk would come out saying better times were for blacks under slavery and Jim Crow because there was less crime. He did it to their face on YouTube in Jubilee. As I close out, I'm reminded of a line from the AMC series Waco, The Aftermath. 5 surviving members of the Branch Davidian complex are tried with various crimes, including aiding and abetting the deaths of federal agents. Their defense lawyer at one point has to level them that on a human-to-human level, even scolding them with a line that, I don't think you're guilty of this charge, but you're not innocent either. This was because they were willingly letting their children fall under the grooming exploits of David Koresh. With this video, I'm discussing Charlie Kirk, an understandably hot topic, which even just quoting him may get you fired in this great nation of free speech, to which I say, Charlie Kirk is not deserving of being shot. He was not a violent man. He was a charismatic man and had a young family. He's also not deserving of deification. He is not a saint. I don't know if I could trust someone who is the nice guy, but also thinks black women just aren't smart enough for jobs. His death is a violent representation of America. It's political violence, but it's not Malcolm X. While studying for this essay of mine, I came across the name William Lewis Moore. In 1963, Moore set out on foot from Tennessee to Jackson, Mississippi. Moore, a white man, was carrying only his determination and a letter he wrote to Governor Ross Barnett requesting that he accept integration. Along the road in Alabama, Moore crossed paths with Floyd Sampson, who opposed Moore's mission for equality. After their exchange, Sampson stalked Moore and killed him with a .22 caliber rifle as Moore rested on the highway. Ballistics would later prove Samson was the shooter, but he was never put behind bars. Inside that letter, Moore had written, "The white man cannot be truly free himself until all men have their rights." And I ask, would Charlie Kirk have associated with Moore in that message? In 2022, Charlie Kirk said, "I can't stand the word empathy. Actually, I think empathy is a made-up New Age term that does a lot of damage. I'm sorry to disappoint the devout Christian Kirk on that matter, but empathy is not New Age. It's not made up." 1 Peter 3:8. "Finally, all of you have unity of mind, sympathy, brotherly love, tenderness, and a humble mind." Ephesians 4:32. "Be kind to one another, tender-hearted, forgive one another as God forgave you in Christ." Matthew 7:12. "So whatever you wish that others would do to you, do also to them, for this is the law and the prophets." And I know Tina Freitas would scoff at me for that, for she's on record saying, leftists quote the Constitution to conservatives the way atheists quote the Bible to Christians. Of course, a reminder from me to her. Both a conservative worthy of quoting a constitutional or Bible quote to. These are done due to forsaking the message being quoted. It's quoted because hypocrisy was spotted and it's called out. And if conservative Christians today are 100% rallying behind Charlie Kirk, I will simply point to the fact they do this because they also wish to forgo empathy, as they wish to take up the sword against the rest of us, and be mindful as you are judged for the martyrs that you keep.